Good afternoon. Thanks for coming out. Wanted to get a chance to speak to you all. Of course, earlier today we saw another release come out with the video footage related to our deputies and the use of force. We've continued to see this kind of over the last couple of weeks, at least 3 different incidents, where there have been the hospital incident, the incident involving DeLuca, and I have repeatedly made a statement out to the public about holding the deputies accountable. And so you've seen 2 cases turn into internal affairs investigations because we've seen some things that calls for us to evaluate policies, to look at body-worn cameras, to make sure that the application of force is consistent with what the state says, policy says, and what my expectations are for my deputies. And so today, I get notified again, and I get a quick glimpse of another video footage showing the application of force. And so like every single case that comes across my desk related to this matter, we look at the reports, we look at the body on camera, and then we go through an entire process of talking to our supervisory staff who have contributed to either authorizing the reports and then bringing our folks back into the room and have my internal affairs major, have my training major there, have my colonel who's over the professional standards in the room to identify, is this a necessity for an internal affairs investigation that's going to probably yield a disciplinary action to take place. And so the immediate action or answer for that on this particular case involving Mr. Bennett and the allegations that came up today from his attorney, the answer is no. This is not going to be an internal affairs investigation. And here's why. What you all in the media have been able to receive and release from a video standpoint is just a fraction of what this entire incident looked like. I've had the opportunity to read my deputy's report. I've had an opportunity to look at the surveillance video inside the schools. I've had the opportunity to look at the body-worn camera. And the allegations that were made today by Mr. Bennett's attorney are not consistent and they're not accurate with what video footage shows, what the deputy's actions were, and what's articulated in the reports. And so this is one of these cases where we put it out in the public, and I want to make sure you have as much accurate information as possible as you go forward and document and report the news, because my message is the same, and it's not going to change. If my deputies step out of line and they violate policies and protocols, if they breach and use any form of excessive force, they will be held accountable. But when they are right, I will also stand here and tell you that, and I will not hesitate to support these men and women when they are doing everything that they're supposed to do by law. And let me give you some facts here. The deputy was out there under his school resource deputy function in support of the safety and security of that high school. And while on that scene, he was notified that 2 school board member officials had been assaulted by Mr. Bennett, that he had choked them. And so he arrived in the cafeteria with a school board official to escort this young man out of the cafeteria. And the video footage is clear. He becomes aggressive, he becomes hostile, he snatches away, flinging his arms and elbows towards the deputy, and he begins to lunge for the school board official, resulting in the deputy having to take this young man down to the ground. There was no punching, there was no kicking, there was no further application of force other than taking this young man down who was hostile and resisting the entire time. And as a result, he was injured. That's part of the repercussions when you are violating the law, when you are aggressive, when you are hostile, and deputies are forced to engage you, to restrain you for the sake of the safety and security of everyone in the room, including themselves, to do so. And some of the questions come up as to why didn't the deputy make the arrest? Because he spoke to the school board officials and they did not want to pursue criminal charges. And having worked in that school for several years and understanding that we have to foster a good working relationship with our school board officials, he elected to use discretion not to make an arrest. Not because there wasn't a criminal charge or probable cause to do so, but as a deputy and a law enforcement officer in this state, you have the right to execute discretion as to whether or not you want to arrest people even when they violate the law. And so that's where we're at. If there's any questions or so that you may have, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
Can you explain, the clearest video that we got was, I'm sure you saw the chokehold. Can you
Yes.
explain that and why that was necessary, or if there was a question about that?
What you're seeing in that video is the deputy on top of this young man holding him down. So there was no execution of a full chokehold in the sense of what we're accustomed to seeing. He was holding him down. And so, again, you're catching a fraction of this thing, of one side of the video. But if you look at the school board surveillance video, it becomes crystal clear what this deputy had to do to stop this thing from getting worse. And I mind you, this deputy that's been there, he has been part of this organization for 20+ years. Pull his IA files as we do. Pull his personnel files as we do. He is an exceptional employee. And I hate that he's going to be drug into this thing and on the surface accused of doing anything wrong. If he was wrong, he'd be in an internal affairs investigation. We'd start looking at this thing. But we haven't seen that. If anything stood out that was suspicious or potential for violating policy, it would be an IA investigation. If there was something that appeared to fraction the laws from a criminal standpoint, it probably would end up in the state attorney's office. But we cannot, I will not, as the leader of this organization, allow for unwarranted allegations, unwarranted statements. When all the facts are there, you can pull the reports, you can request the school board video, you can do all these things to have a more comprehensive reporting of what things are occurring in this community. And the more that we allow for these very haphazard approaches and statements to be made without facts behind them, the more we jeopardize the safety of this community.
Chief, when do you think we can get a copy of the body camera?
I'm not set to release them just yet, but we will. We're still going through the use of force application side to finalize it, but we'll make them available.
Did the family file any formal complaints with BSO or anything?
No, not one complaint, not one reporting at the the site location or district location, or contacting or capping over the SROs, none of these things.
So why do you think they've come up with this?
I'm not going to sit here and speculate about the reasons behind what a family member or an attorney is going to do. But what I would say is this: if they're going to report an allegation of excessive force, abuse of powers, inappropriate actions or conduct of my deputies, then I would hope they would have facts behind their allegations and not just fire off these statements and comments that do our whole community a disservice, not just BSO.
We'll take one last question because I know the sheriff has another event.
Sheriff, just real quick, what would you say to the members of the community who at face value just see another deputy on top of a teenager in this video?
That's a good question. From a face value standpoint, I would say this: ladies and gentlemen, videos are out there everywhere, and my deputies understand. We live in a society now where everything's captured on an iPhone 5 or a Galaxy or whatever it may be. And so we practice under that level of extra caution because the public don't understand use of force. And so when they get a video glimpse of 20 seconds of an incident that's 360 degrees, consists of numerous witnesses and other video footage, they need to understand that we cannot, from an administrative standpoint, just take that one singular video and automatically make a decision. It can't work that way. All right?
Thank you all.
Thank you, folks. Have a good evening.